Fable is one of those lost franchises, a trilogy of games that most of its fans regard as a masterpiece in some capacity. The franchise's legacy stalled on a bit of a sour note back in 2012 when Peter Molyneux departed Lionhead Studios. And Microsoft decided that the best way to honor Fable's 3-game legacy was to drive it face-first into the ground with a series of decisions that can only be described as, how much money can we make off of people's love for a franchise? So now the main series has remained dormant since 2010, leaving in its wake a lot of people who fondly remember the franchise as something that used to be fantastic. So I figured I'd take a look at the first game in the series and see if it truly holds up as something worthwhile to play today. In a surprise twist, I actually won't be covering the entire franchise in one 4-hour-long video, so we can all breathe a sigh of relief there. What I will be doing is playing through the anniversary edition of Fable that was released for PC back in 2014, 10 years after the original release of the first game. Alright, let's get to it. So right out of the gate, we have the difficulty settings, which make me feel bad about my life if I choose the option for the game to be set to the original difficulty. I think I'll stick with the OG difficulty here just because it's probably more accurate to the original experience. Alright, so this whole thing kicks off with this storybook-esque introduction about a boy who daydreamed about being a powerful warrior or wizard or just an evil dude. The foreshadowing is a little on the nose, but I think they were just trying to get the player straight into the game. This is only further evidenced by your dad going, "Hey, you gotta get your sister a birthday present. I know you're like 10 years old, but I'm not gonna bail you out." He then proceeds to bail you out by offering you 1 gold piece for every good deed you do around the area. I'm unsure how much this is in this universe, but it's a lot of gold for a kid by D&D standards. I imagine if this is as much as I think it is, I'll have enough left over to reconstruct my actual horror movie face. So you start talking to the townsfolk about their various woes, and figuring out how to help them. The first thing I actually wound up doing was taking a bribe from this guy who's cheating on his wife out behind a house. Kind of a weird place for it, but alright. He offers me a gold piece to keep my mouth shut about seeing him together with some chick who wasn't his wife. So I take this guy's bribe, and then the game tells me that I have committed a bad deed, and basically my karma's gone down. I don't care about that because, realistically, who's gonna find out, right?
I've heard reports that you've been doing bad deeds, accessory to improper man and lady behavior.
Alright, I guess someone saw me take the bribe and decided to report me. This is a pretty weak way of introducing the player to the concept of, hey, if you do bad things, the guards are gonna chastise you for it. While it is a bit cheeky, I guess I just would have preferred something more obvious. Like, say a thief-type guy had me steal a pendant for 3 gold pieces, and told me that I would take the fall if anyone found out. I think something like that would have been a little less ridiculous. But either way, you go around this tutorial area while performing various actions for whoever needs them, and earn enough money to buy a box of chocolates for your sister. This includes telling the woman about her cheating husband, beating the ever-living fuck out of this town bully.
Why are you playing with baby toys and little girls? What are you doing? What are you doing?
And then returning a teddy bear to a little girl. Though it does bother me that this woman had no idea about her husband and the side chick getting it on, but the town guard somehow did, the tutorial area is short and sweet, and fine enough for a 2004 game to get its point across. So you return to your cross-eyed ginger of a sister and give her the chocolates, and you both prepare to leave as bandits come storming into the town and start slaughtering villagers. Your sister tells your character to hide, and he does so behind the best cover of all, a wooden fence with a huge amount of space between each board.
Got one!
So this whole thing apparently happened because the bandits came looking for you for some reason. To find you, they massacred the entire town and tortured and killed both your mom and your horrendously disfigured potato of a sister. Apparently, she didn't take her own advice of hiding behind something obvious and looking like Kevin from Home Alone. As brutal as this was, I have to say I almost feel like I'm being shoehorned into being the good character at this point. I mean, this is pretty much the basic setup for the tragic hero archetype. Of course, it's possible that will change, but the game rewards you thrice for being a good Samaritan and lectures you for doing something even slightly bad. And then it goes on to tell you that your entire family was killed by villainous bandits. I guess it feels like it takes that whole concept of, hey, you can be good or evil, and then just pushes you heavily to be heroic. The game further compounds on this sentiment with the introduction of Maze. He saves you from a bandit who charges at you while you continue to Macaulay Culkin of your big dead dad. He then tells you that he's the leader of something called the Heroes Guild. He whisks you away to the guild and basically abducts you into the lifestyle of a hero. It's all extraordinarily quick. Hey kid, I know your whole family and everyone you ever knew died before your eyes in a brutal and unforgiving slaughter, but hey, you gotta be up bright and early for your hero classes. Okay, bye. So you meet your roommate, who's a solid 2 inches taller and 30 years older, judging by her face. She goes, "Yeah, I had this room to myself, but I guess I don't get that anymore. Oh well, let's go to class. Yeah, my family just died, but yeah, sure, let's make me feel bad for taking up space in your room." You report over to this fella for your big training, which consists of stepping into this gladiator pit ring thing.
Get in the ring.
Then the guard alarm is sounded and this guy goes, "Huh? That's the alarm. There's trouble in the woods. Go take care of it, new kid. Then we can actually get to your training." Well, if that's not the most ass-backwards thing I've ever heard in a game, I'm not sure what tops it. To be fair, it's not much of a task, seeing as they sound the alarms if beetles get near the guild, apparently. So moving into the future has your character advance in age, wisdom, and strength, but apparently not height. So after robbing the entire library of its books and performing a traditional Russian dance for the shopkeeper, he was very impressed. I start to head on over to the objective before my controller tells me that it's thirsty for some Duracells by having my character become really interested in this fence over here. Then it's back to a bunch of training with these 3 different types of combat skills. Melee seems pretty basic, and I like the rolling. It's easy to see how inspired Dark Souls was by this game. The ranged combat is a bit more sketchy. Of course, you have your patented console game auto-lock, but you also have free aim, which makes me feel bad about my life. Then you have the final form of combat, lightning hands. I don't know how to feel about lightning hands because I can snap them from one dummy to the others in less than half a second, but I guess I'll have to see how it plays out in real combat. From here I can advance to adulthood, or go play with Whisper in the woods. I opt for the latter of the two, and we run into some bandits who apparently are just grumbling to themselves and looking like bandits. Whisper suggests that I murder them with a bow, or my Sith lightning. And so I take a few shots at them while they struggle to shoot at my 3' 6" frame. After I'm done brutally taking their lives, Whisper cheers and goes, "We did it! You and me, we both did it. At the same time, we did it. Did you see the way that your arrow went through that one's eye?" I'm gonna go tell our teacher that you massacred those 3 humans just now. Okay, bye. And so you advance into adulthood, which concludes with you practicing your skills on maze one more time before receiving the title of hero. You're walked through the relatively basic skill system, which allows you to trade your experience points for more strength, speed, sneaking, magic, pretty much everything you could want in a basic action RPG game. One thing I particularly enjoy is the idea that you need to upgrade your physique to use bigger weapons in the game. And finally, you're left to your own devices, which basically involves you taking story quests or optional quests from the big table in the middle. The introductory bit of this game feels extremely cut and dry, and more about getting the tutorial for all of the mechanics out of the way than actually writing a compelling story. I mean, obviously your whole family dying because bandits were looking for you for some reason is definitely somewhat intriguing, but the execution of tossing your character through Hogwarts for many years in a training montage is kind of lackluster. Either way, I can't actually help but be excited to dive into the meat of this game with all of the possibilities I've been shown so far. So here's my first major take about this game. It's bizarre. And that's not a bad thing, because honestly I can't think of another game that's just like Fable. Sure, you can say that the dated combat mechanics show up in other games, or the upgrade system isn't particularly unique, but there's this reputation system that affects how people treat you. They might cheer, they might cower, they might just ridicule you. The people you interact with are these strange and bright cartoon characters that range from dopey and drunken townsfolk to smug heroes who look down on you as a simple farmer. Your choice of armor or clothing might mean the difference between protecting yourself in combat but looking extremely ugly to other people, or it might mean that you're an unarmored glass cannon, but hey, you look beautiful. The sneak system has your character do this weird lazy hunch, and this eye in the top right corner tells you how many people see you. There's this constant disembodied voice of the guildmaster telling you where to go and what new things are happening at all times. The blacksmith calls out that he has shields and armor, and he has neither of those. Villagers and vendors tell you your next objective location when you walk by them constantly. The game is just really goddamn weird, but it also oozes charm, and I'm really enjoying it so far. So the first thing that the main quest has you do is slay a wasp queen and a bunch of regular wasps that seem to be carnivorous. I think the lightning might be a bit overtuned, but it sure does get the job done. Also, the wasps in this game sound like pigs, and I haven't figured out why. From here, you head on over to the main city of the game, Bowerstone. Upon arrival, you're told that your horror movie monster of a sister might have actually survived the attack, but they're still unsure. After this, you can do whatever you want again, which for me involved picking up a few side quests. So Fable has this thing called a boast system. Basically, it's a way of adding more challenge to your quests, while risking some money in exchange for more of it. When you boast, your character is basically getting up on a platform and telling his followers, "Alright, I'm gonna protect these next guys in this next contract while I'm naked," or something of that variety. In addition to this, many of your quests have you fighting on the side of justice or villainy. In one quest, you can earn good boy points but less money if you fight off the bandits who are looting a farm. Or you can rake in more shekels by helping the bandits loot the farm. I guess the definition of a hero in this game is just someone who does things for people, because Whisper opposes you once you choose your side, whether it's good or bad. It just seems kind of weird for you to have been rescued by this guy who runs the Justice League, only for you to go, "Yeah, you know what? My family had it coming. Being a murdering bandit is the way to go." Either way, this kind of choice is pretty damn cool, even if it doesn't affect the game's overall story. A lot of the times I felt pretty overwhelmed by the sheer amount of things that I could do. But I don't necessarily always consider that a bad thing. When it's done right, a large amount of choices and things to do can make time fly by fast when you play a game. And that's exactly what happened to me with Fable.
You're now renowned enough to use the sexy hero pose expression.
There's a variety of different settings, enemy types, and little bonus additions like these minigames that change from area to area. But one of my favorite things about Fable are these giant talking stone doors. I absolutely love these demon doors. They're probably one of the biggest things I remembered from the Fable series, just because of how cool and different they are. They're another big part of Fable's unique flavor that would probably make the game feel less complete if they weren't there. The riddles they present range from things as simple as turning on a lamp in your inventory or wearing a certain set of armor, to performing great evil deeds, asking a door to marry you, or giving birth to inflation porn in this world.
I'm not interested in your meager frame. Get some meat on you. I want beefy, blubbery, plump, porcine.
Finally, someone who understands me. The doors open up into these cozy little areas with some nice aesthetic or interesting vibe to them. And rewards range from elixirs which extend your life or magic bars, to powerful weapons and outfits. Not all of the reward areas are particularly compelling to look at, but a lot of them do have their own interesting spin and their own little stories to tell without stating anything implicitly. They're a fantastic addition to the game with just how odd they are and how satisfying they are to open.
Outside every thin person is a fat one trying to get in. Enter, weighty wanderer.
Partway through this shithole of a marsh is the Darkwood Bordello, an establishment aimed at providing pleasure to men in exchange for monetary, it's a whorehouse. The owner's name is Mr. Grope, which, yeah, alright. He apparently is an awful person who treats the women here like trash and only cares about profit. The leader of the women here is trying her best to get the deed to the establishment from him so that she can be rid of him, which is where I come in. But first, I gotta go for a test drive here. The most interesting thing that we learn here is that I look like a fat, dad-bodied Geralt of Rivia. After this, obtaining the deed is as simple as getting the owner shit-faced, who then proceeds to babble up the stairs and into bed where he sleep talks, has a heart-to-heart with you while you tenderly watch over him. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, he reveals the location of the deed, which is buried out front near the statue. After coming back with a spade, you can dig it up and become the new owner of the bordello. This means that you can make a profit every few days from the establishment, and you can sleep with the ladies as often as you want for free. But if you want to be the best boy, you can turn the bordello into a women's shelter, and I like that option, so I do that and get rewarded with a little halo over my head for being such a good sport. On the flip side of this newfound holiness is the Chapel of Scorm. Also branching off the Darkwood area of the map, the chapel is a place where you can bring followers with you to sacrifice them to the evil god Scorm. The whole area is very reminiscent of the Red Mountain area of Morrowind, which is pretty awesome. There's an entire system here where it's better to sacrifice at a certain hour if you're good, evil, or neutral. The rewards you reap get really good, including the best bow in the game. The system is ridiculously convoluted and definitely reeks of the older game mentality of making a very complicated system and just letting the players figure it out. When you make it to the next major town area, you run into the little girl who you helped out in the prologue of the game. Apparently she made it through the attack and is now hell-bent on giving you Vietnam flashbacks. Hey, you know how everyone you love died? I thought you did too, but guess not. Okay, bye. It actually took me a moment to realize that Oakvale's the village your character's from. I guess I just thought it would look like shit, but apparently it's repopulated nicely. Maze meets you outside of the tavern and lets you know that years ago a hero named Twinblade moved on from the guild to unite dozens of bandit clans and start wreaking unified havoc on a lot of towns. Maze believes that he might have been the one behind the siege on your village all those years ago. And he also believes that an exceptionally talented seer has been helping them become rich. So my mission here is twofold. 1, to find out if it was Twinblade who was behind the attack, and 2, to make use of the seer's services to figure out the whereabouts of my sister. Infiltrating the bandit camp has you doing a tutorial for sneaking, which is painfully slow, and probably works about as well as Elder Scrolls sneaking does if you get it to a high enough level. Case in point, this guy explains to his comrade here that Twinblade is only letting people with full bandit outfits into the camp. Then he turns around and goes, "Who is that?" And then he just kind of forgets about you when you crouch a little bit. The game goes from teaching you how to sneak to pretty much giving you zero option to do so in the next area, as there's like 40 bandits here just hanging out. So I dash on by them because I boasted earlier about not killing anyone. Along the way, I scoop up 5 pieces of bandit gear, which allows me to transform into my alter ego, the Chromosome Kidnapper. The guy in front of the gate goes, "Yo, sick bandit gear, bro. Is that an angry mob behind you?" Ah well, come on in. When you make it in, you can change back into your old clothing if you want to, and you can freely roam the camp. There's a few vendors, a gameskeeper guy, and a big fella simply named Slam. Alright. I hire him to follow me around after I play a game of peekaboo with the gameskeeper so that I can win a free ticket into the elite part of the camp. Slam and I saunter into the camp, ready to blast some bandit ass. Except I still boasted about not killing anyone, so I gotta come up with something else. So I pay these assassins to create a diversion, and they do so by picking on the most beta of the bandits. And this causes the alarms to be raised for some reason, and all 3 guards storm out of the castle to chase the assassins away. It's here where we meet the most mismatched body and voice combination in the game.
My legs have been dying to meet you.
This mountain of meat's hoarse whisper sounds better suited to a blind old man in a tavern, but whatever. He's ready to fight and I'm ready to loot. Apparently he doesn't count as a bandit, so I do eventually give up on my loot quest to defeat him. After his defeat, the seer reveals herself from the tent, which had no extra hiding spaces, and I definitely just scoured the entire thing for loot. She also gives you about a half a second to process her existence before going, "Hey, by the way, I'm your sister." I guess the raiders found her face to be just as unfortunate as I did and decided to cut out her eyes. And dye her hair, I guess. Weird. Then again, mine just up and turned blonde, so yeehaw, I guess. The narrator tells you that the raiders tossed her aside and then she crawled around for 3 days before bandits found her. Twinblade basically kept her at his side after seeing how surprisingly adept she was in combat, and the whole seeing into the future thing. She basically became a complete badass, and she imparts to you some kind of gift of power before leaving you again. You get the choice of killing or sparing this walking anime villain and then depart the camp. When you return back to Maze, he goes, "Oh, yeah, nice. Congrats on having a sister still. Yo, you want to do some arena fighting though? Also, my archaeologist friend might have gotten himself killed. Want to check that out?" I don't know, I was just sitting here thinking he might have a lead on the raiders who killed my childhood, but let's go rescue that guy. But before that, I realized that I have to pay Slam all the time. I even gotta pay the fella during cutscenes. I guess I could probably just let him go back to the camp. Or...
The rope engine.
Alright, now it's off to the Witchwood, an area on a little island to the top left of the map. It's basically a rainier and lighter shade of Darkwood. You find Maze's archaeologist friend behind this demon door who gets mad at you for finding him, And then shortly after, you find the counterpart to the Chapel of Scorn, called the Temple of Avo. Instead of sacrificing dudes for profit, you instead have to pitch in your hard-earned money for good boy points. So it's basically a Catholic church. It does reward you with one of the better melee weapons in the game eventually, but yeah, it takes a lot of funds. But it does actually take a lot less if you start chipping in when you're 100% evil. So...
Follow.
Scorn's insect infestation, fire, furnace and flame, scorn, acid, and brimstone bath.
Alright, now we can pick this bad boy up. It's still expensive as hell, but hey, it's worth it. I replaced it an hour later. Also, there's this King Arthur-ass sword up on this hill, and you gotta be super strong to rip it out. Ironically, by the time you get this strong, the amount of DPS it outputs is less than a few of the two-handed weapons you can grab from other sources. Still, it's pretty cool to come back as this monster of a human to rip this thing out of the ground in front of everyone. And the description says that the twins who made it cut off their own hands to make sure that no one else could make another one. Brutal. After this area comes the next town, Knothole Glade. It's been having a bit of a Balverine trouble lately, and I guess I'm the one that needs to fix it by fighting off these assholes. Their raids have become more and more brazen since their leader, a white Balverine, has been leading them into town. Supposedly a hunter who lived in the town killed the last one and then disappeared. The wife reveals to you shortly after that her hunter husband had gotten bitten by that same Balverine, and now has become one himself. So you have to take him and his lackeys out with a silver augmented weapon, or just a really powerful one. When you return with the fella's head, the leader of the town lets you know that he's basically going to sponsor you for the arena, allowing you to start competing in it against other heroes. The arena is actually pretty goddamn cool. The rules are about what you'd expect, except that you keep fighting until you're ready to throw in the towel. Every round that you fight nets you more and more money until you make it to the grand prize. The first round has you fighting these stingy boys. The second round has you fighting a herd of fat, short Thanos. And then the third round hits and you're joined by Whisper from here on out. And I absolutely hate this decision, because it's very obvious why she's put here and what's likely going to happen. On top of this, she's absolutely useless beyond drawing extra enemies towards her. Like, I'm one-shotting some of these mobs and the most she can do is knock them down sometimes. And then it's like, wow, these two heroes are truly on the same level as one another. Cool. So yeah, you fight a series of the same type of enemies that you've seen in the game so far. Werewolves, bandits, zombies, trolls, other trolls, and then finally the big boss, a gigantic, gnarly-looking scorpion. This guy probably would have been a lot more difficult if I had fought it with my melee weapon exclusively, but he does absolutely nothing when you hang back and shoot him, so that's what I did. So here's the big, semi-predictable twist. Apparently there's a guy dubbed the Hero of Heroes known as the Jack of Blades. He's returned after a long time to reside over this tournament and give out the final bonus prize. So MF Doom comes walking out and basically sounds and looks like what you'd expect an average villain to sound and look like. Instead of dropping some sick beats and lyrics on us, he says, "Alright, now,
Fight to the death."
While I understand this quote-unquote plot twist, the game spoils it before you even make it to this point due to the boast system. You have an option to kill your enemies or spare them as a boast. And since every wave has a monster or bandit type, you never get that option. Introducing Whisper as an ally is an awful decision no matter how you slice it, and I wish they would have instead left me alone and introduced her afterwards as my final opponent, suddenly. So the final fight between us shows how useless she truly is, and has her saying not to kill her, and that she wouldn't have killed you if she had won. If I do kill her, I get 10,000 gold, an assload of evil points, and Thunder continues to be an asshole to me, I'd imagine. By the way, this is Thunder. Thunder is Whisper's sister, and he's just the worst.
I only hope you both end up in the arena one day.
All he has to do is give her one final strike!
Then we'll see who the greater hero is.
Don't do it, fanboy.
Anyways, when I initially accepted this quest, I needed money. I needed money badly for this big-ass club strapped to my back. I was full evil, sacrificing people, not caring who I killed. If I was still in this position, I would kill Whisper with no hesitation. She's been nothing but annoying this entire game, constantly acting like she's better than me despite literally never once proving so. And then her older brother, whose thigh is bigger than my entire being, talks shit to me at every given opportunity. Even in her possible final moments, she calls you a farm boy again. I get that this is more of a thing because your guy doesn't have a name, but he does have a title, and she could have called him that, or just anything not as derogatory. Either way, I do decide to spare her because I'm ready to go back to the good side. I'm just tired of people cowering from me, I guess. You sacrifice a dozen or so villagers and suddenly everyone's afraid, Jesus.
When you return to the readying area, Thunder's there, and he's talking shit about you again. He tells you that this isn't over, and blah blah blah. Lady Grey is the more interesting person here. She's the mayor of Bowerstone, and she cordially invites you to her manor before taking her 2 best assets with her and leaving. After this, you're escorted out of the arena by a guard who points out to you that you reminded him of the first female hero of the arena, Scarlet Robe. A statue of her lies on the right side of the hall, and your character falls to his knees at the sight of it. Apparently, he can see a distinguishable human being in this lump of Play-Doh, and more importantly, it's that of his mother. The Jack of Blades swings by and monologues about how great she was, and how she left behind 2 great heroes in her wake. Then he casually goes, "Yeah, I can't wait to reunite all 3 of you." My character does not react to this at all. The guy definitely admits that he was behind the attacks, more or less, while my character is just sitting there dreamweavering in front of the statue. So I guess instead of taking my vengeance, it's off to have a tea party with Lady Grey. Oh, and to find my sister again. But first, Lady Grey. She's all over you almost immediately and asks you to pick her up a black rose. The item description for this says that you have to have a heart as black as the petals to appreciate it, so I'm guessing that she's not a great person. Also, the guy about to be executed in this cage says that too, but I kind of want to marry her, so... Next, she wants you to own a house before marrying her, which... I mean, come on, who do you think I am? And finally, she wants you to retrieve her necklace from someone who stole it off of her. You talk to all of these assholes around town, and they're all like, "Man, I can't believe Lady Grey murdered the shit out of her sister. Did you know that Lady Grey actually literally slaughtered her own sister and took her necklace from her? Did you know that Lady Grey is wearing her dead-ass sister's necklace? It's in Oakvale, by the way." Despite all of these clues and seemingly limitless witnesses, my character completely ignores these people to go retrieve her necklace for her. I'm very disappointed in him, but it's okay. So I head off to Oakvale and into a tavern that's packed with hearts. I've never had more people love me in my entire life until I played this game. But more importantly, Whisper's here, and she's like, "Hey, sorry I belittled you and gave you shit for the entire time that I've known you. It's because I was super jealous. Anyways, I thought I'd tell you now, and I'm going back to my old country. See ya, nerd." I mean, it's cool that she apologized, but I guess I don't care at all because she's been a total non-factor for her entire existence. Speaking of non-factors, not only have these 2 goofballs been watching the entrance of the cemetery to make sure that they could talk in private and then reveal the necklace location anyways when I walk in, but Thunder is apparently the other suitor to Lady Grey. He basically says that he's gonna kill me up on this spooky-ass hill and has told a bunch of peasants or something. I was thinking we were just gonna meet in the arena, but I guess this works. This guy is a horrible fight. It isn't difficult, it's just annoying. Thunder's moves consist of spinning at you, blocking, and his main move, calling lightning down around him in a circle. This makes melee combat a stupid idea, and the entire fight is basically just shooting him over and over again. Halfway through his health bar, he tackles you off a cliff and your character sounds like this. Then he goes, "You think you can take her just by killing me? She loves me!" Then he runs away to this cave where the final chunk of fight takes place with no modification to strategy or new moves. When you defeat him, you don't get the chance to lop his head off or anything. He just kinda limps away and says that you can have Lady Grey. When you make it back to Lady Grey and tell her that you beat shit for brains, she marries you on the spot and that's that. I was hoping there'd be something a bit more special for marrying her, but I guess 15,000 gold and access to this demon door is a pretty good reward.
Let's go to bed, shall we?
Alright, time to go meet my blind sister. She's hanging out at the place that Lady Grey was raised in, I believe, known as the Grey House. This place is goddamn ominous, and it's really cool. It actually put me on edge a little bit, even though realistically nothing's going to hurt me. Stepping inside the house has this clock ringing before zombies rise from the floorboards. They're pretty easy to kill, but then the camera pans outside to show you some kind of thumping coming from one of the graves. Further investigation brings you into contact with this journal written by Lady Grey, basically stating that she's going to run Bowerstone no matter what, and that the masked man was the one who spurred this. So I imagine that would be the Jack of Blades. And finally, to put a bow on this area, the graves out back don't have any zombies that spawn, but they do say things like, "I finished first in the human race," and "Not dead, just sleeping, buried me anyway." My wife's a murderer.
So Sis here tells you that your mom is actually still alive and being held by the Jack of Blades in some sort of prison. His goal seems to be to get some kind of special sword which has the capability of destroying the world or something along those lines. He was also the person who cut out your sister's eyes in the first place. The archaeologist from before knows how to get into Jack's prison, but he's been captured by Jack's minions, and is now in the process of being man-napped from Bowerstone. Jack's minions are these weird, hunched-over creatures that sound a lot like scrap metal scraping together as they move. They wield these long, twin-blade type things and are generally super strange. I like their design a lot. When you make it to the archaeologist and send all of the baddies packing, he tells you that he knows where a secret entrance is to the prison, but you'll have to figure out the rest yourself. So you're sent off to the graveyard in the northeast of the map. The graveyard keeper here has apparently plundered some kind of armor and stashed it away all over the graveyard. You basically just alpha him into muttering about how all of this stuff must have gotten into their hiding places by accident, before he disappears entirely while leaving the last piece at his house. You need to return all 4 of the pieces before the demon door will let you through, and then it's off to the final stretch before you make it to the prison, which is apparently through some kind of mystical fireplace which opens up when you defeat these skeletons in a prayer circle. The entire way up to this place is just a tsunami of undead also, which is kind of neat, but also makes fighting them completely pointless beyond trying to clear a path. But eventually you infiltrate the prison to try to find your mom. We're getting to a part of the game where I think the devs were just kind of out of ideas, or they didn't know how to design an endgame, because this prison is just crawling with these whack-a-mole, jack-in-the-box undead assholes. And it sucks not because it's difficult, but because it's annoying as all hell. I barely take damage from these guys, it's just the sheer quantity of them. They keep popping up from underneath me and just knocking me down. And then the explosive mushrooms from the Darkwood make another appearance, which is just fantastic to try to deal with when you have a never-ending horde of bony boys trying to give you the business from behind. This is followed up by a bunch of average-looking town guards, but they're wearing red, so apparently that allows them to take several hits from some of the strongest weapons in the game. At least they don't keep knocking me down over and over again. Finally, you make it to your mom, who looks like she's 70 years old now. She's absolutely thrilled to see her son again.
Get this damn cage open.
So you run out of there, fighting the respawning guards and all that stuff. It seems like Mom can't really fight anymore, probably on the account of her looking like she was there when hieroglyphics were invented. But then Jack cuts you off and gets big as hell. And floaty. He goes, "Ha ha ha ha, I planted a modern-day FBI bug onto your clothing when we were at the arena. I know all about everything you've been doing." And then you get captured. Yeah, you get captured by these 4 enemies that you've been thrashing for a while now. I mean, yeah, sure, I guess the Jack of Blades was involved, but you don't really even get an attempt to fight him. It's just an instant capture. It's absolutely horrible design, because all you really needed to do was have Jack grab the hero's mom and go, "Look dude, I'm gonna kill her if you don't give up." And then on top of this, his entire reasoning for all of this happening is to get to this overpowered sword. It requires a key or something like that, and he demands to know where it is. What I don't get is that he has clearly heard your conversation with your sister and what she said. So why not just let you escape with your mom and hope that she tells you where the key is? So here I am, sitting in a cell, looking like Agent 47 and Mr. Clean decided to bone storm a baby into existence and overparent him until he ran away and got tatted up. Oh, and just because we're operating off of playground rules, I can't use magic because Jack of Blades enchanted the whole prison? I don't know. I mean, let's really talk this through. I'm a powerful hero. I could easily best these dumbass guards with my fists alone, even without magic. The guy next to you even says, "They take us out every year once a day to race us around the courtyard."
Like you couldn't just escape then. And then to pile on to all of this is the fact that I'm the husband of one of the most powerful people in Albion. It just makes no sense. I mean, for fuck's sake, the warden recites a poem about Lady Grey in your presence. I think this entire ordeal would have fit so much better in the early game. I know that would mean restructuring the story, but goddamn. I really can't stand that I'm this super powerful, super renowned hero and I'm just tossed into prison. For a year. A year. When you race around the prison and win, you get the prize of listening to the warden recite his poetry to you. During this time, you can sneak by him and read the code off the wall. The code unlocks one of these 3 diaries on the desk, and no matter which one you pick, it's wrong. I know this because I tried. So you wait a year, and then you do it again, and this time you get the key. This initiates an escape sequence in which you do the same thing that you should have done the first night when they let you out for the race. Freeing the other prisoners gives you good karma because criminals are great people and fuck the police, I guess. Then you run around with a stick before your mom says, "Dude, what the hell, go get your shit." So my prisoner buddies die valiantly as I retrieve my belongings. Apparently the Jack of Blades decides to drop the prison-wide magic powers ban as soon as I get my stuff back because I can suddenly use my powers again. Now hopefully I remember to turn off the spying device that he planted on my gear, or this is gonna get really awkward in a few moments. Dale! Yo, what is up, my man? Not much, bro, just finishing up a shift at the old prison unit. Tonight? Jesse's gonna be there? Yeah, count me in. I mean, you'll have to give me a few hours though, man. You know we got a field of zombies outside my work, right? I know. Only one way in or out, but hey, they're paying me $14 an hour, so combine that with the Tim Hortons gig I got going, and I'm making just above the poverty line. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna have to get back to you, Dale. They brought the Kraken back. I know. Yeah, I'll meet you tonight, dude. Usual spot. TGI Fridays? This boss is kinda neat. I mean, it's easy, of course, but neat. Grandma keeps telling me that she thinks it might be blocking the exit. She's pretty astute in her old age. After this, you're given a little cutscene in which you're told that your hero now knows that the Jack of Blades must be stopped. Dude straight up reveals that he's imprisoned your mother. Your sister goes, "Yeah, he cut out my eyes." But what really pushes our guy over the edge is being in prison for a year. So now we have to stop him because he knows where the key to the sword is. But what he doesn't know is that only a member of the hero's bloodline is able to reveal the key. So in order to stop him in order to make it so that he can't get the key, all 3 members of the family split up, and one of them is to go directly and reveal the key. Yeah, it seems like a great plan to me. I go activate a much-needed Cullis Gate in Darkwood, and then I head on off to the Hook Coast. This place is an icy northern region, which I love the look of so far. Although I do have to admit I'm a sucker for cold and snowy places. When I try to exit the town I arrive in, there's a red force field keeping me out. My mom tells me to come back to her so that she can figure this out, and when I do, she gets napped again right in front of me. The last thing she screams out is for me to not forget the book. So I grab the book and bring it to the guildmaster, who says that he can use it to bring the force field down. This is the beginning of the last stretch of the game, and it has you abandon all of the other side quests to start it. When you get back to town, there's these banshee-ass wraiths chasing people around. It's actually a pretty nice sound when combined melodically with the guildmaster chanting nonsense in my ears. So here's a twist that I should have predicted all along, but it still doesn't make sense in a lot of ways. Maze is a bad dude who caters to the Jack of Blades. So there's been almost zero indicator that Maze was going to betray you because he's always been pretty steadfast in how he speaks to you. I don't know, maybe he was trying to raise you in a way to defeat Jack, but he sure gave up on that dream pretty fast if that's the case. The only answer that you get out of him when you defeat him is that he's a coward. The funniest bit about this entire ordeal is the part where Jack goes, "I can't believe it took you a whole year to get out of prison." Yeah, you and me both, buddy. The actual fight is kinda silly and annoying, but not as bad as Thunder's fight. The weirdest part about it was this bit where he teleported into a locked lighthouse, which makes me wonder if it would have been open during the daytime. Fortunately, my guile was high enough to pick locks, but still, really odd.
After you deliver the death blow, he goes, "Oh shit fam, maybe you can beat Jack after all. Thank you for the everlasting faith, Maze." The Final Showdown has you chasing the Jack of Blades all over the map. This rush not only has you revisiting different corners of the map, it also has pretty much every single different enemy type that Jack has employed throughout the game popping up to try to stop you. They don't do a very good job. Although Jack is always a step ahead of you anyways, as he activates these different ritual sites around Albion. Thunder shows up for one whole room before going, "Go on ahead, I'm exhausted. I need a break." Have you ever cucked someone so hard that they forever have small dick energy? When you're done chasing Jack, he winds up at the Heroes Guild, which he has started the process of decimating. He then heads to the secret chamber in the back of the guild, where he awaits you for the last battle. Before the battle starts though, he yeets your mom into the sword, and then he starts the fight. This battle is annoying in that you have to fight Jack's minions first, and then he'll fight you. The first 2 times I approached him after he let his barrier down, he just put it back up and summoned more minions, which is a colossal waste of time. When I got him to half health, he floated up into the air and started shooting down at me from above. So I just used my bow, and that was it. Not a very enthralling battle at all. Your sister approaches you after this battle and says, "Hey, if you want the sword, you gotta kill me." I guess this was meant to make the final decision a good versus evil one, but I feel like evil characters are pretty shafted in this game. I decided to chuck the sword into the void because it's weak as hell compared to mine in terms of DPS. And as far as the base vanilla game goes, that's it. Your hero rests at last and Albion is saved from Jack's evil, which, let's be honest, super weak ending. The DLC has a lot more elaboration on a lot of the key elements, which makes me wonder if the game was rushed initially or if this was always the plan. The whole thing starts out with one of the oldest heroes in Albion transmitting a message stating that there's some big time trouble up north. We need to restore power to the lighthouse that's off the Hook Coast in order to be able to ferry over there. This involves entering this new demon door which has appeared, and freeing these goofy-ass prophets who are locked up in confinement. If you want to kill them, you turn the puzzle into moons. If you want to free them, you turn them into suns. Either way, you retrieve this big flamey boy which has the capability of making the lighthouse do its job. After this, it's mentioned that Maze was frantically working on trying to retrieve a sword which could rival the Sword of Aeons. According to his journals, he's been trying to free himself from the Jack of Blades for most of his life, and this new sword would likely lend him the power to do so. Avos Tyr is basically the good counterpart to the Sword of Aeons, and basically only appears for someone when the heroes of Albion's past deem them worthy. That would be me. I've decided to use it for the DLC, I suppose, because it does have some great augmentations. I think the Sword of Aeons was heavily nerfed from the base game if I recall correctly, so its damage output, and therefore Avos Tyr's damage output, doing less than the Solace Greatsword would make sense to a degree. Oh well, we'll give it a spin. Bringing the Fireheart to the lighthouse results in a few of the summoners who were laying siege in the north to appear to start attacking it. This has you do a little protection quest before the heart does its job, and it summons up a ghost ship for you to ride your way up north. When you reach Snowspire Village, the mummy returns, greets you, and tells you that you're to visit the necropolis and retrieve 4 glyphs to restore this big monument thing known as the Snowspire Oracle. The goal here is to hopefully have this thing impart the knowledge necessary to ward off these summoners permanently. So it's time to go grave robbing again. It took me a bit to figure out the pattern, but when you read these tombstones, they'll tell you either something shitty about the person or the way that they died, or they'll say something nice and positive. I'm looking for the positive ones to proceed. The negative ones cause a wave of squeakers to spawn in, which is just kind of annoying when white Balverines keep spawning in repeatedly in addition to these non-stop zombies. At least the zombies are big and clumsy and not too plentiful. When you return, these stone faces wake up and tell you that the summoners are here because the Jack of Blades has sent them. He's apparently cheated death somehow, and is now trying to figure out a way to get back to Albion from a place known as the Bronze Gate. In order to get the gate open and put an end to this, the soul of 3 heroes are necessary. The mask that Jack was wearing seems to play a key role here also, as Jack starts speaking to you directly through it.
You destroyed my sword, remember? Have you any idea how many centuries I spent looking for it?
The first soul that you're to collect is from a hero known as the King of the Arena. Thunder is the main choice for this, so it's time to visit him again to see if he's recovered from that long sprint through the single room earlier.
The guy has apparently been begging for work from the mayor of Knothole Glade, which is just sad. He tells you that you can kill him for his soul, or you can go to the arena and look around the sands of the main fighting pit for the souls of heroes who are long dead, and may be haunting it still. Jack encourages you to just kill him, but I'm being the blessed boy, so I decide to hoof it back over to the arena, where dozens and dozens of bodies are sprawled out all over the place where the summoners have ripped through here. You're tasked with participating in another round of the arena, destroying trolls, balves, summoners, and pyramid heads that are all employed by Jack to stop you. You're rewarded with the soul, and you report back to Briar Rose. The next inscription calls for the soul of a heroine, and Briar Rose fits the bill. But she goes, "Yo, just use your dead mom's soul. I mean, what you gonna do with that?" So I go off to the graveyard where my mom tells me that there's a legion of screamers here to stop me from gobbling down her soul. What the fuck were they thinking? At least it's over quickly compared to the arena. And finally, the last soul required is the oldest soul. Jack suggests that I kill the guildmaster, and the acolytes at the guild suggest that I go take Nostro's soul, which is the skeleton in the graveyard who I retrieved all the armor for earlier. The funniest thing about this is the fact that the guildmaster caught wind of this, and he just noped the fuck out of there. I really feel like playing an evil character would have been way more fun here. Oh well. When you head over to Nostro's fighting area, there's plenty of zombies as always, but there's also Jack's minions. What's cool is that they actually fight each other, which is a nice touch. Nostro's a badass warrior who's willing to give you his soul, but only if he falls in battle. So you blast him and capture his soul, and then face down Jack for the final time. Except this time he's a big-ass dragon. Man, I can't believe Skyrim ripped off Fable this way, goddamn. This fight's pretty cool in that I take damage, but Jack kinda just hangs out on the side and lets you hit his head only, or flies around and wastes time. I guess it's about as much as I can expect at this point. When you finally defeat the big bad evil man, you get the final option of putting on the mask and basically becoming Jack, or throwing it into the lava. I like this choice a lot, it definitely exemplifies each side of the morality coin. But after this, that's the true end to the game, and it feels a lot better than the vanilla game's ending. So let's wrap this whole thing up and give my final thoughts on Fable. The sheer amount of things that you can do in this game, from changing your character's body weight, scariness, alignment, and attractiveness, to buying out a trader's stock of cider and selling it at a higher rate to another one, to fishing and digging for treasure, to buying a house and upgrading it before renting it out, or to just exploring all the nooks of a map to find treasures tucked away is honestly just delightful. I guess I've just gotten used to this mindset that a lot of newer games have where the devs have just taken this huge open world map and put a lot of nothing into it. And while I wouldn't call Fable open world per se, these little micro levels and areas of map are jam-packed with just enough content to make me go, oh, well what's the Rose Cottage? Or what's behind this building? Without going overboard and causing me to not care anymore about exploring. The side quests in Fable are a 70-30 split between short and sweet and tedious as hell. There's the occasional uninspired or just plain boring one, and then there's horrible ones like this godforsaken quest. It's an escort mission except that you have to stick near your slow-ass party at all times, and if you stray too far during combat, the prisoner runs away. But for the most part, the side quests are pretty enjoyable additions to the game, with not much to complain about. A few examples include the likes of this grandmother who comes off as a sweet old lady who's worried about her grandson in a cave. When you fight your way to the end of the cave, a nymph has the child locked up in a barrier, and demands that you bring her another innocent to sacrifice instead of the kid. I chose to kill the nymph instead, resulting in a mini-boss fight. When you return the child to his grandmother, he tells you that she's worse than the nymph, and that he's gonna grab some shit from the cabin and leave.
Why are you running away? James? I'm speaking to—
Then there's this asshole who goes, hey, you wanna date my daughter? Well, you gotta change your hairstyle to this really boring and unattractive one. Oh, and mutton chops, she loves mutton chops. And, a big stupid snidely whiplash mustache. By the way, I don't have a daughter.
I just like making heroes like you look stupid. Have you seen yourself? You look ridiculous.
The game isn't all great things, obviously. There's a lot of shit where it's like, how do I do this? I've had to look up a lot of different things because the menuing and different systems like marriage have no obvious tutorial. I gave this girl like 10 boxes of chocolates before trying to give chocolates to every person in town, before giving one a wedding ring, before she gave me the option to marry her. I actually tried to marry the barber first, but it turns out that she only ever gives you the option to shop with her, and not actually marry, despite me giving her a wedding ring. When you do get married and you're ready to take grandma to Applebee's, you have to flex on your wife until she's ready to get it on. I mean, that's just real life shit right there, but I guess I just didn't expect it to translate so well to a video game. I was instead trying to go to bed and get her to follow me to it, and was trying to press some kind of bang button from there. I will say that you're at the very least rewarded with 30 seconds of uncomfortable black screen, which is honestly a really apt depiction of the real life act.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
I couldn't figure out for the life of me how to use my hotkey shit, because I didn't realize that you have to hold the trigger to use them, because usually that's just the XP collection button, which in and of itself is kind of a silly mechanic. As mentioned before, the whole sacrificing people for rewards is some of the most overly complicated shit in the game, and I'm offered little to no explanation on how to maximize my rewards without looking it up. Boasting confused me at first because it seemed like if I had backed out of it, I would cancel the quest. The game explains how boasting works after you've already been through a cycle of boasting. The menus look nice and sorted, but there's entirely too much to them, and I can't stand trying to navigate and sort through them the majority of the time. Although I praise the concept of an economy where you can buy goods from one merchant and sell them at another for profit, it's actually horrendously broken because you can just buy a bunch of stuff in bulk from a vendor, and with enough guile you can sell it right back to them for profit. The voice acting is charming when you're going through a minor side quest or something that's intentionally goofy.
I just got out of Guard College last week and I only got a C- in hostage recovery.
But it hurts the game when more serious stuff happens because of how it's paced or how the voice lines seem rushed or confused.
Finish it quick then. I'd do the same for you.
There you are. What's wrong? Don't you recognize your own sister?
The final few quests, side quests, and areas of the vanilla game range from a bit of a slog to just not good. I wasn't as entertained with any area north of Bowerstone beyond the Hook Coast. The vanilla story was very mediocre up until the DLC starts, and then it becomes a bit more bearable when it's explained that Jack is some kind of entity which forced itself onto Albion, and by extension explains Maze's betrayal. But despite all of those negatives, none of them stop me from having a blast with Fable overall. All of the bad stuff combined slow the game down from being fantastic, but they don't make enough of an impact to keep it from being a great and entertaining experience in its own right. Especially for 2004. You can pick apart the definitely shitty animations, the cartoonish voice acting, and the decent at best plot. But the game is ridiculously ambitious for its time. So, is Fable as good as I remember? Yeah, it actually is. Maybe even a little bit better. There's a feel to it that I don't think any other game has replicated in quite the same way, and I really had a lot of fun. If you haven't played the game in forever or you still haven't tried it out, I highly recommend that you do. Well, if I haven't ruined it for you, that is. Thanks for watching. I've been meaning to hit this series for a while, so it's nice to finally get around to it. Plus, it's only like an hour long, I think. Beyond that, I have a Twitch where I make my absolute best effort to stream stuff every week or 2 or 3 or 4. I stream, I swear, sometimes. Just not recently. I have a Twitter where I tweet out my videos as they get done. Sometimes I complain about stuff. Yes. I have a Discord where we discuss the hottest gaming trends, but mostly it's just non-stop shitposting at an alarming rate. And that's about it. Have a good one.